gonna question a psychopath.
The Orby has nothing to fear.
The Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
You are about to experience trash cinema.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Trash Tapes. One man's trash is another man's treasure. I am your host today, Johann, and the inflictor of pain, and today is a very festive episode because it's Christmas. And you know what? The best thing to do is to torture my friends by giving them the present of pure terror. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'm going to start off with my regular co-host, my victim and DJ, Edward Harvey. Hi there.
Hello. I think I should just do the whole episode like that.
Don't. You nearly busted the mic by doing that. I think you might have made everyone who's listening run off now. But yeah, it's...
Wouldn't be the first time.
It wouldn't be the first time. But yeah, how are you doing otherwise, other than being a Wookie?
All right, I'm feeling very festive. We did our Batman Returns video recently, and
yeah.
I'm fully into the Christmas spirit now.
Good, and I'm hoping to break that Christmas spirit with watching this movie. And today we are not doing this just as us two. We brought basically the third one, as some people may call it.
The third wheel, yeah. That's it. Some people would call it. Thanks.
No, I'm joking. So, for this one, we decided to have a full round table with us three. So Greg's joining us today to go through the torture with us. How are you doing?
Greetings, I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me on your side of the enigmatic woods, as we say.
Yes.
What the hell did you make me sit through and watch?
Something very, very holiday themed. Of course it is.
Clearly.
Something very 70s.
I think, to be honest, I think Ed's actually onto something there, because we might as well, the three of us, have a discussion as Wookiees, because that's what about 60-70% of this movie was.
Well, let's talk about...
I feel like I should have prepared you for that Wookiee sound, though. I probably killed the mic.
You've deafened half of it. But
you might want to lower the mics down just a little bit, just for this one.
You know, how about just switch it off? How about just switch it off? No, but yeah, we're already teasing what we're doing, but this is very, very easy, right? This is the thing. For some people, especially everyone loves a Christmas special. Everyone likes a Christmas kind of feeling, and you know what? One of the things that was for a while, there was for a little branch of time, there was a Star Wars movie around Christmas period for the last 5 or 6 years or so. And there isn't one this time round. Well, for obvious reasons. So I decided to torture you both by doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to talk about the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yeah!
Jesus Christ.
The Star Wars Holiday Special. Starring Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. With Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca. R2-D2 as R2-D2. And James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader. Introducing Chewbacca's family. His wife, Mala. His father, Itchy. His son, Lumpy. With special guest stars, Beatrice Arthur, Art Carney, Diane Carroll, the Jefferson Starship, Harvey Korman, and an animated Star Wars story on on the Star Wars Holiday Special.
This is something I've actually been wanting to do for a while. I have never seen it until recently. I've heard about it. I've really heard a lot about it. I've heard people review about it. I've heard people poo-poo it. I have never seen it. And also the fact, since I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan, at least to me, I'm not huge, right? I watch the movies, and I like the movies, but you won't see me watching the TV series, though I do like Baby Yoda, but that's the whole point. I'm not a hardcore fan, so I never felt like I had to watch it. Now I was thinking, you know what? I've been holding off for too long, basically. I need to watch this. So that's my little history on it. How about you guys then? This is both of you, your first times watching it. So how do you feel about it before we get into it?
Do you want to go first, Greg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I can go first. So, big Star Wars nerd. Always have been. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. Since the 90s, I've been, quite frankly, obsessed with the franchise, with the universe. I've watched every new movie as it's come out, played pretty much every single, well, for the most part, every single video game as it's come out. Mm-hmm. But this is something that I was aware of and have been for many decades. Mm-hmm. And again, much like Johann in a way, I just thought, nah, you know what? I'm just not going to bother with it. And then I decided to join the Enigmatic Boys. That's the thing that happened a couple of years ago. And Trash Tapes obviously is a big part of that. Mm-hmm. And I've been even still, I've been putting it off. And when you said we was doing this for this Christmas, first of all, I was like, well, you know, okay, you know what? I've kind of been putting off. Maybe it's not as bad as it was. Maybe it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
And no, my initial thoughts and feelings were right. I've literally gone 31 years without being tainted by this appalling hot mess of a movie. And again, as always, Johann, damn you.
Look. I always feel like a good friendship is all to do with ribbing each other and putting people through torturous things together. Well, yes. And so you and I have done this together now, and now we should be best friends. So that's what I think this should be.
This movie's made our friendship stronger. Thanks. That's the take.
Exactly. Ed, how about you?
I'm a bit like you, Johann. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I used to watch Empire and Jedi a lot as a kid. Those two. Return of the Jedi actually the most. I used to watch that because I just like the fact that Luke was an absolute badass in that one. And he's got to the point where he's just like a master. So I just loved. I was a big Luke Skywalker fan as a kid. So I really liked Return of the Jedi. But since then, I mean, I've seen the new ones when they've come out and stuff. But not a huge fan. And when I first heard about this holiday special, I just assumed it would be like a TV movie, and it'd just be slightly less production and like just a bit of an average kind of TV movie. But it's like a variety entertainment show. I didn't expect it to be like, and they're such a time capsule. They're like something that's locked in the 70s and the 80s. You don't get that on TV anymore. It's like music and like sort of sitcom kind of actors thrown in there.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
Sure.
I assume you've seen the film Scrooged, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know the production of Scrooge that the film it's doing? It's like basically like a big variety show. And there's like all the sort of the cameo appearances at the start. It reminded me exactly of that. I just got that kind of vibe from it straight away.
It is. It's just this time's all in space.
Yeah. Exactly.
I also got pantomime vibes from it as well.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think that. But that's not entirely intentional. I feel
no.
That's not intentional. That is all unintentional. I feel. So yeah. But here's the thing. I actually think we're all on the spectrum here. The idea that Greg, you're sort of the hardcore fan. I'm sort of middling in the middle. I do like the stuff. I do like some of the bits, but you won't see me going into full lore, and I don't mind the lore being broken a bit. And Ed, you're mostly into the older movies because of Luke Skywalker, but when you said Return of the Jedi, I thought you said, oh, I like the Ewoks, but
no. Well, actually, I did have the Ewok base, the playset.
So yeah, okay. So that's the kind of. So it's interesting how we're going to tackle this from 3 different areas, kind of. So let's see the level of ridicule that this occurs now. For all those who may be completely out of the loop of this, let me explain what the Star Wars Holiday Special was. So the Star Wars Holiday Special is a 1978 American TV special set in the Star Wars universe, right? It was It was directed
fucking barely,
right? Directed by Steve Binder, but it was previously directed by someone previously, but we'll explain that in a minute. It was the first ever official Star Wars spin-off movie set in the events between the original film and The Empire Strikes Back. All the main cast are back to a degree, and there are some very interesting moments in this that introduce some interesting characters, some that stay, and some that would never be mentioned again. So when it was broadcast, I believe, 1978, around the week of Thanksgiving. So, right. And it was only broadcasted once.
What a surprise.
And at least in America, apparently according to other things like international distribution, they had a few versions that were out and about. Like it was shown in Canada the same evening as the one they did on CBS. And that was shown once again. It was also shown live in Australia and New Zealand. Roughly around a week later from that. About an hour. Actually, no, it says according to this about a week later. And then on New Year's Day in France, January the 1st, 1979, it was a dubbed version in French and trimmed down to only 72 minutes. So we've cut out 20 minutes of this nonsense already. So it was shown around and about, although I don't think this ever got broadcasted in the UK, did it?
I don't think so.
As far as I can tell.
No.
I think we dodged a bullet with that one. I think we definitely...
Telling me.
But this is the thing, because it only got broadcasted once, and we'll talk about the legacy and the reception of it later. People thought, it died, right? And people thought it became a sort of a dark, dirty secret in the Star Wars universe where no one wants to talk about it. None of the people made it. None of the people who were starring it want to talk about it. But it did circulate around the underground scene through bootleg recordings. So people recorded this because of course you would. This was VHS at the time. People saying, and now we're going to watch if you were a Star Wars fan and you heard there's going to be a holiday special, of course you're going to record that. So there's a whole bunch of people who recorded it and then start passing it around. And so this was a cult hit underground thing from bootlegs, but really it kicked off when the internet became a thing.
Of course, and then of course the internet became a thing. And this is what I think is actually quite kind of great. The fact that you've actually got the full movie on there, full bootleg movie on YouTube, available for anyone to watch at any time for free. Mm-hmm. And that will probably continue to be the case, because if Star Wars, Lucasfilm or Disney did ever want to pull that down, that would be them actually admitting that they own this shit.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be stuck on the internet by whoever's put it up there forever.
What was interesting though is when I was looking for it on YouTube, I saw that there's the best bits in 4K on YouTube as well. You can watch the best highlights. Well, highlights. In
Lumpy went.
Yeah, in 4K. Great. But I guess that would have been kind of just sort of enhanced, upscaled, because it never. How the hell would you get it in 4K?
The only thing I can think of is there's somewhere out there is a master tape. There must be a master tape, and that master tape is the thing that would have the highest uncompressed footage of this thing, and they must have had that in 4K. But the point being is the internet, because the secret that George Lucas and everyone else tried to bury, right, is now available on the internet for all to see. And it is, because this is the thing, the internet doesn't let things go. So if you've got something like this, it's going to come up eventually.
And then if you get rid of that one, it's going to come up somewhere else.
I know, right?
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
It is whack-a-mole. So talking about this though, there's a little bit of a history with this. So obviously we have to go a little bit further back. We have to go to obviously May 25th, 1977. Star Wars Episode 4 comes out. Yeah. Well, it's just called Star Wars: A New Hope comes out, and does stupidly well. Although what I love about Star Wars is at the time before the movie came out, people thought this was risky because they say because people think even half the cast were thinking, this is kind of dumb. And some of the crew were thinking this is a bit silly. And it wasn't until they do a master edit. There's a whole video about how this movie was saved in the editing. Yeah. It did gangbusters and did stupidly well, right? Because of all that, it kind of led down this pathway of loads of spin-offs things coming into play, right? There, merchandise and people would and people in character were appearing on TV shows, like doing like little bits and segments. So this was already happening. This was the merchandise train was running for it. Okay, what happened is that eventually, around July 1978, there actually was funding for this. So Lucas got funding for Empire. He did a lot of it with his own money, though. So George Lucas said, right, we're going to do Empire, right? So he's already full focused into doing the sequel, okay? But around this time, CBS approaches them. So CBS approaches them saying that we want to do something, we want to do sort of a spin-off sort of thing for this, because obviously Star Wars is big and they want to catch up on that. And they want to do something special. And in America has a very big thing about Christmas specials. There's always been holiday specials. They still kind of do that. There's always holiday episodes. And I think, on the UK TV, that caught on as well. But they have the famous ones that everyone sort of nostalgically talks about. So CBS says, right, we want to do that. And plus, if you do a really good holiday special, it's something they can play every year. And extra, that's where the money comes in. You've got programming.
Milk that cash cow.
You've got programming for ages, right? One of the ideas is actually saying, according to Wikipedia and a few things involving IMDb and my little article I've read, it says, while outlining the original Star Wars and planning for potential sequels, George Lucas actually did imagine a whole film just focusing entirely on the Wookiees and nothing else. So he actually wanted to do a Wookiee movie at some point. I think he kind of got that with the Ewoks, but that's something entirely different. So
that's entirely fucking
we're talking about the Ewok movies and cartoons.
That's for another show.
That's for another show. But after but that was the thing he had in his head. He wanted to do this. So when he was approached by CBS, because he was busy doing Empire, he kind of pitched them this idea. He actually said, like, okay, we could do a holiday special. And so on. So at this time, I think it was Charles Lippincott, who was the head of marketing for the Star Wars Corporation, because that's literally LucasArts, basically, was part of that thing. CBS came up with the idea for a TV special, approached him and Lucas, although there was a lot of dispute about who approached who first, whether it was CBS pitching the idea for this or George Lucas was just running around trying to do this while he was doing that. Apparently, everyone agreed on that a holiday Christmas TV special was a good idea. They thought this was going to be good. But Lucas was already way too busy moving on to production with new locations and everything else for Empire. He was already too busy. He was busy writing it.
I'm glad he focused on the right thing.
Yeah. So what happened was it means he was not heavily involved in the special. So according to the Lucasfilm producer, Gary Coots, he said that it did start out with a far better script, right? It actually started out a lot better with a different script. We had half a dozen meetings with the TV company that was making it. In the end, because of the work of promoting Star Wars and working on Empire, we realized we had no time for this. So we just let them and just had an occasional meeting with them, providing them access to all the props, the actors, and some of the sets. But that's it. That's what he claims to be. So he claims he just said, like, George Lucas pitched him the idea and went, go. You do this, I do Empire.
So that kind of explains why our first ever look at the world of Kashyyyk, the homeland of the Wookiees, is basically just a drawing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like the worst matte painting ever. Well, it's a paint. If it was just a painting, I'd be fine. But it's meant to be an actual location.
Yeah,
it's an actual tree house,
3D, volumetric location. It's just a picture. And this is the weird thing. Because this is only the second Star Wars production really ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the first time you see Kashyyyk, so the home world, something you don't actually see in the movies until, you didn't see till decades later in 2002, the Attack of the Clones. Or was it the third one? Could have been the third one. But anyway, this is the first time you see it, and it's just a fucking drawing. On top of that as well, two of the greatest assets of the Star Wars universe. For me, one, Kashyyyk, and second of all, again, cartoon, Boba Fett.
Yeah. We're introduced to these two things, but it's under the shine of we can't do anything as big as budget as a big movie does because it's TV money. So that's one thing. Now, when we're talking about the Wookiee stuff, like we already mentioned that George Lucas imagined a film with Wookiees, right? He wanted that. George Lucas, though although he's not credited in any of this, other than just saying, characters by, he's not credited to doing any of this. It was his idea to build a narrative completely around Chewbacca's family. And Chewbacca's family is now, at least the idea of Chewie having a family is canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's actually canon. However, CBS hiring a whole bunch of writers and producers generally found this very difficult because, and I quote, especially from including a famous writer called Bruce Vilanch, right? Was concerned about the decision of centering an entire special on the species who grunt in a fictional language without subtitles. But George did not budge on this vision and said, no, you can't give the Wookiee subtitles because we are not planning on giving Wookiee subtitles, okay, in any of the movies. So George said, no, we want Wookiee movie. CBS goes, but we can't do this in foreign language. It's like, that's your problem.
I mean, the thing is, when you've got just Chewbacca and usually Han Solo, he knows what he's saying, so we always know what Chewbacca's saying because he's translating it. But when you've only got Wookiees talking to each other, there's no one there to step in and go, actually, this is what you mean. And it's very awkward.
Do we? No, but that's the thing is that this is why most of the movie, this is the thin line between all the segments, is always interrupted by actual English-speaking people.
Actors.
To sort of, otherwise you're going to have what basically is an over-elaborate slapstick mime show where it's just people pointing at things, hoping you get it,
Yeah.
I kind of got the vibe a little bit. Like I think it's okay. This reminds me a little bit of something. Do you remember the I think it was the Clangers? Was it the Clangers the one in the ones on the moon?
on the moon. With
the ones on the moon with the spaghetti. With the spaghetti dragon and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
The first few episodes of the Clangers had no narrator on it. And the reason why was because the creator of the show and everyone else thought that this language would have been picked up by kids. Like this fake language would have been picked up by kids over time. But then they realized that didn't work, and it was just a bunch of ooh, 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 just a bunch of noises for about 5 episodes, and everyone was getting confused. Like, right, we're going to have to add a narrator in. Otherwise, we're not going to understand this, and it's just a bunch of noises. And
what's Pingu's excuse?
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot of examples, like Teletubbies as well. Teletubbies.
No, but even with Teletubbies, there's still a narrator that goes,
they've always had a narrator.
What is this?
Oh, yeah, I guess so, yeah.
There's always something that explains it.
We have Johann voice Teletubbies, do the narration for Teletubbies. That'd be fantastic.
It's like,
what is this?
Oh, what is this, I wonder? Let us go, Poe.
Johann doing Brian Blessed.
So yeah, but yeah, it kind of feels like that's the thing. I think that's why I think he personally didn't want to give them any subtitles because you're not supposed to understand them. And
of course, because he's not credited on anything, it means he can wash his hands of it and say he had nothing to do with it. And also, speaking of people not being credited, I see David Prost getting the shit end of the stick as well again.
Yep.
And the voice of James Earl Jones and David Prowse as the body of Darth Vader. The voice of James Earl Jones.
It doesn't matter. Everyone likes the voice.
He's been shat on by Lucas for 40 fucking years. May rest in peace.
Now, just to throw a little bit more into that, those scenes with Darth Vader that pop in every so often, there's some scenes which are actually scenes that were on the cutting room floor from the original movie. Yeah. So you just got some
you see that in other places as well.
Because you can kind of tell because the quality looks better. It looks like, oh, there's production value. No, that's because it's from the original Star Wars movie.
It's also the case as well in the earlier scenes when Han Solo and Chewie are in the Millennium Falcon and they're being chased after by Imperials.
That does not look like.
No, because the thing is, like the actual space from the exterior of the ship being chased after by all these, starships and whatnot. That they are again cutting room floor cuts from the original movie. In fact, there's even some scenes in there which made the final cut. They've just been replicated again for this Christmas special or holiday special, and the scenes inside the ship obviously are new, and you can tell because it looks like the interior of the ship is very different to what it looks like in the movies. It looks like a BBC.
It looks like Red Dwarf, doesn't it?
It looks like Red Dwarf. Yeah, I was going to go Doctor Who from the 70s, but yeah,
I was going to say even worse.
Yeah,
I was going to say even worse. As a bad movie film fan, it reminds me of the cockpit in Plan 9 from Outer Space. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like a couple of boards with some things painted on and a curtain, and that's it. That is the cockpit. And a lamp. That's it. That's all that it is, right?
That's it. I'm turning back. I know your family's waiting. I know it's an important day. All right, we'll give it a try. I'll set your coordinates. Won't jump far. I'll get you back there in time, pal. Trust me. Our only hope now is to outrun that Imperial garbage scow, though. I'm going to Lightspeed. That's the spirit. You'll be celebrating Life Day before you know it. Stand by. Here's where we say goodbye to our unpleasant friends.
This actually had two directors, right? Now, the first director was David Akumba, who was brought on because he was brought on by them to try and make a different kind of variety show, right? Akumba, who was a classmate of George Lucas, so he did this a bit as a favor, was, let's just put it this way, he was unfamiliar with how TV worked. In other words, he was unfamiliar with multi-camera setups. He didn't know how to do that. He just I only work with one because I be film student. So he doesn't understand how to do multiple cameras.
Yeah. So so again, like very much like a T. But hang on a minute. So you say this guy came from filming movies as opposed to TV?
Yeah. So basically,
but TV was more used to using sort of hard cam back then.
Yeah,
like a play, filming it like a play kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So what's his fucking excuse here?
Basically, he was a classmate of George Lucas from the USC Film School. So he was a snobby film school person who said, I only work with the fancy one camera setup because why do we need two? So he didn't understand that you have to do things like framing for multiple cameras, and I think that caused problems. He also felt a very distinct divide between himself and the producers, and so he chose to leave within the first week. And the only two parts he filmed were everything involving the Cantina and Jefferson Starship. Everything else, that's all the two things. And you know what? It makes sense because it's I don't know. It makes sense that one just feels like the less TV-ish thing.
Yeah, I would say so.
Then it was replaced by Steve Binder, who was only in contract with George Lucas was only in contact with Lucasfilm by something called the Wookie Bible. So the Wookie Bible basically was a detailed book just detailing how the species looked and behaved. And just said, run with that, please. And so basically you have to blame this guy for maybe either reading the Wookiee Bible wrongly or not understanding how Wookiees work, or maybe really actually understanding how Wookiees work, and we have to blame George for this. So it says here, this is how the Wookiees behave, this is their culture, this is everything else. Make it work. Which was, that was a nightmare. And also, a few more things I can throw in here. One of the writers for this special was Bruce Valanche, who admittedly actually said this, and I love it. He opened up and saying, like, during that time, he did actually was incredibly high on cocaine when he wrote the draft for this script.
Well, finally,
I could never tell.
One thing about this movie that makes sense. I mean, clearly he was high on cocaine.
Yeah. There was also a couple of people that people wanted in there as well, and things didn't pan out or whatever. Because there's some interesting casting choices for some of the newer characters. One of the characters, I believe, is basically the guy who plays multiple characters, which I believe is Harvey Korman. Right? There was a couple of little things like, do you know who was going to play that beforehand, but the producers turned him down?
Go for it.
Robin Williams was going to play those roles instead.
No.
But the producers turned him down.
Robin Williams would have been brilliant doing that cooking show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been really good. I mean, he was doing like Mork and Mindy and stuff, wasn't he? I think
at that point he wasn't too big of a thing yet. Yeah. So like, nah, he's fine. We're gonna get Harvey Korman instead. But other than that, and this is just pretty obvious. Stir, whip, stir. We'll carry on in a minute. But the reception was pretty much as you can suss it, very unkind. Everyone basically calling it that I'm not convinced this special was ultimately written or directed by anything other than a sentient bag of cocaine, which that's literally what one person wrote. Other people, there's also a book talking about this, which was David Hosted, I think it's Hosted, who wrote What Were They Thinking? The 100 Dumbest Events in Television History, ranked this as number 1, calling it the worst 2 hours of television ever.
Yeah, fair. That's a fair assessment.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm with him.
Now, the thing is, what's more interesting is the reception from the cast and crew. So, George Lucas hated this. And this is the thing. This is what the he says, she says said. A lot of people from CBS said, but we gave you dailies to watch. That's what CBS says. But then George Lucas said, we never did such a thing. We already had a couple of meetings and that's it. I left it in your hands. But they said, but we gave you dailies. You had to tick it off. I bet you it's a combination of both. I bet CBS did send him all that stuff, but he's too busy.
He'd been saying, look at the sign off, to
sign them up properly, and just said, it should be fine. They're CBS. They're good TV. They should know what they're doing. Okay, they didn't. But then when he saw it, he was completely unhappy with the results. And in 1987, Lucas reporter said the special is like, I believe it was released on videotape. I'm not sure if they're going to ever rerun it on TV or not. And he did say that if he had all the tapes and a sledgehammer, he would destroy every single tape that ever existed
if he had
of
the time.
this.
Yeah, he said this.
Yeah. He would purposely destroy it, which is absolutely hilarious. But there's some other things of note as well. Harrison Ford didn't want to do this in the first place. He was basically sort of goaded in by CBS and a few other people say, come on, buddy. Come on. Like, come on. And you can see in his performance, he has absolutely no interest in being there. And he actually...
They to be honest, they all seem in unison about this. Because there's the Harrison Ford, I don't know if you've seen the Conan O'Brien interview from like 2000s.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It basically looks like he wants to punch Conan for even bringing it up. Then, of course, there's a famous interview there. Is it Anthony Daniels who plays C-3PO?
Yes.
As well, he's very, very shocked and pretends like, no, like, listen, you can't bring it up. You can't ask me about this. You said you wasn't going to ask me about this. Like everyone just wants to wash their hands of it. And quite frankly, I would probably be in the same place.
My favorite one of these is Carrie Fisher, because Carrie Fisher actually said that she was given a bootleg copy of this as a joke present. Oh, no. But then when she says it, she says like she kept it and she used it to play at the end of a party to make people leave. So when she wanted people to go, the holiday special went on.
Played that song at the end.
Yeah, just heard it.
Can I just say as well, this song confirms then that the actual Star Wars theme that they've added lyrics to in this
has lyrics.
That song actually exists in universe.
And also like
the song exists in universe with lyrics.
Well, they did do that kind of thing, because don't you remember they actually had like lyrics to the EastEnders theme tune and released that as a song in the charts, like everyone can fall in love.
They do that a lot. They do that a lot. Like, here's the thing, though. Like, obviously, we're going to talk about this in a minute, a little bit, but obviously in the Cantina, that is a song in the universe, but it didn't have lyrics. Yeah. Apparently, B. Arthur decided to give it some lyrics.
Decided to give lyrics. Terrible ones as well.
It was a bunch of nonsense.
In fact, all the lyrics in this whole thing, in every single song, quite frankly, is terrible. And the only one that is relatively acceptable is probably Jefferson Starship, and that's because they're not singing a song
anything remotely related to Star Wars. It's just about UFOs and shit. But yeah, point being is that everyone hated doing this, and it kind of felt like they were more obligated because of the fact that they thought the idea of doing a Star Wars holiday special, like a proper, like an actual TV movie in the Star Wars universe, has a good idea. But the only problem is when you got even the people who are behind it not have any interest in it, you're going to end up with something that seems a bit hap-dashed and not even sure of what it's supposed to be. Now, the whole point of it is like people thinking like, is it canon? No. None of this is technically canon, so that's good. There are only about few things.
But hang on. How can they say it's not canon? Who has the authority to say it's not canon? It happened under the Star Wars banner.
Okay, so basically this is the thing, right? So originally, despite the unpopularity of the show, Lucasfilm did maintain its status as part of continuity, placing it sort of halfway through. So for a while it did. It happened until then, until later on, it basically claimed that this all fell under what was considered the secondary level of canon. In other words, it's not really part of main canon, it's background noise, and you don't need to see it to understand any of the movies, right?
I suppose the Last Jedi is not canon either.
Yeah, it always annoys me. It happened. It's out there. You can't erase it.
You can't erase it.
It's like when they erase all the Halloween sequels. They still happened, you know.
Live with it. And to be fair, there is a reference to the holiday special in The Mandalorian.
It does.
Yeah.
It does have a little dig on that.
They can't pretend like it's not canon.
So there are a couple of things, though, that they actually tried to be clarified, of some things that would still recur in other people and other work, which are more on higher levels of canon. So Life Day is technically a thing.
Yeah.
Life Day is a thing. Chewbacca's family.
The Tree of Life, which is what Life Day revolves around, actually plays a big role in one of the levels of the most recent Star Wars game that came out. That name now completely eludes me. Come on, I'm the games guy. The one that came out in 2019, the single player campaign from EA.
Was it something? I can't remember because I don't know this. So yeah, you. I mean,
I've played it. I've completed the fucking thing. Just for the name's.
So that game isn't that game.
That game, right? Yeah.
Other things that maintain.
One with Dominic Monaghan.
So that's the one. I know that. I
can't think of it either. I didn't play it though, but.
Yeah. Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh God!
There you go.
On the tip of my tongue.
There you go.
Should we just re-record that bit?
No, we're fine. I want the confusion. Chewbacca's family members are all canon, okay, including Lumpy. And then finally, and then a few other things as well. So they basically, Lucas maintained an internal continuity database called the Holocron. Right?
Yeah.
And the Holocron is what continuity is. Things like Life Day, Chewbacca's family members, and technically the Boba Fett cartoon are all canon. Right?
Yeah.
They're all canon. Everything else can quite literally be swept under the rug. Other than the old, even the whole thing with the Empire and that goes through the episode basically is not really seen as canon. So they basically picked out some bits which you could grow out of.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything else could literally naff off basically. Jefferson Starship isn't part of the Star Wars universe.
Just accept it and just have a laugh about it. That's the best way.
Yeah, but the problem is none of them do. Everyone hated doing this. So yeah, and other than like other bits and the other things did appear in later shows, movies, comics, games. We all know this by this point. That's what's considered to be sort of canon. And yeah, that is the interesting, weird backstory behind the production of Star Wars: The Holiday Special.
Did they ever give any sort of a reason or explanation as to why they have about sort of 6 or 7 different TVs dotted around this one Kashyyyk household?
I think it's. I did give an explanation.
For various different reasons. That also could have English writing on, by the way, might I add.
It's because, right, they had to fill it in with something. Otherwise, it would have been Wookiees talking for the entirety of 2 hours. They had to fill it in with something. So basically, this house is completely full of TVs and holographic images and a weird headset, all this stuff just to cut to a segment. Because we have to remember, this was originally designed to be a variety show Wookiees, not a movie. It's not a full narrative film. It's a variety show with a seed that builds in between. And so that's what we get with this piece of nonsense.
To me, to you guys, did it seem like the whole thing is like padding?
Yes.
You got to pad it like a sequence. The whole thing is padding. It's just like
the whole thing is padding. Yeah, from one section to another.
It's
more padding.
If you got rid of all the segments, which were honestly the better things in the movie, oddly enough, if you got rid of the majority of the segments and just put the whole family storyline squished together, that's 20 minutes. That's like 20 minutes, right? So it's a short film of, I don't know, people would tolerate 20 minutes of just Wookiees talking, but it's 20 minutes, right? It's not nearly 2 hours. But yeah,
I'm glad that I'm glad it wasn't just Wookiees talking. I'm glad you got the section. You had sort of almost like the cameo appearances of Mark Hamill and then Carrie Fisher, and you had these different things to cut away. You can't deny there wasn't some variety in there.
There was, but whether it was good is a different question. Now. This is what we want to say, first of all. Now, we're not going to, obviously, with the new structure of the show, we're not going to do the entire plot. In fact, there's no need to do a plot. Everything's in segments. But there is one underlying seeding thing, which is the idea that Chewbacca, with Han Solo, is trying to head home to see his family in order to join them for Life Day. So that's the whole thing. So basically, that's the main crux of the story. And then we come back to the family, sort of waiting on them to, like, you know, to do stuff, basically. Which, basically seems like, oh, we're waiting for him, hearing news about the Empire's locking things down and everything's, you know, and he might not be able to come in and so on. And we're introduced to the family.
Yeah.
Let's talk about them. So... They've
got a lovely shaggy 70s carpet, I will say.
The joke is like, hey, the curtains match the drapes. You know, it's all fuzz. So
it's all green fuzz.
It is green fuzz. Now, just to clarify, this is what they say in the thing, but I bet you this was retroactively added later on to give them the thing. So Chewbacca's family are Marla, who is the wife, okay, Itchy, who is the granddad, and the one that killed me when I first heard it, there's the kid is called Lumpy, right?
Everyone's favourite. Or least favourite, depending on how you look at it.
And then when I first heard Lumpy, I cried because I said, I had to stop. I said, like, no way are you ever going to call a kid Lumpy. But he does. He's called Lumpy.
Well, you can hear Lumpy now if you want. You can hear. Do you want to hear Lumpy?
Oh, come on. I can't.
And at the end, that aggressive, like, demonic grunt was Itchy telling Lumpy off.
It's horrendous.
The thing is, right, like, this is clearly one thing they don't understand when they was coming to naming these characters. The name Chewbacca, well, the name Chewie obviously is short for Chewbacca, as we all know that, which is kind of a, kind of cool sort of alien, otherworldly name. But obviously we call him Chewie to sort of like, humanize him and, you big Teddy bear, Chewie, come here. Obviously they've just heard the name Chewie. They probably don't even know the name Chewbacca existed when they come to design the names of the rest of his family, which is why they've got names like Itchy, Scratchy.
Itchy, Scratchy, Poochie. But actually, retroactively, they gave them actual names. So afterwards, they gave them actual names. So Marla's actually short for Malatubuk, right?
Oh, okay.
Itchy is Achichuk, apparently. I'm trying to pronounce these. And Lumpy is Lumpawook. So, Lumpawookaroo.
Well, they're better, the full names.
Yeah, but the problem is like, try and have everyone else say their full name. It's really hard to. So that's why everything, okay, you're Lumpy. You're Itchy, you're Marla, you're Poochie, you're all these names now because it's easy to do.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that is the start of it. So we're introduced to them, and then they're the ones that sort of we spend all the time with. We spend all the time with them. And basically waiting for Chewie to come back home. Right, so that's the main plot of the whole thing. That's kind of and in between, it's people just getting ready for Life Day or getting distracted by things or whatever. And this is where all the weird segments come in. And I do personally love some of them because they are just
so many.
They're so weird. That's so weird.
We're introduced quite early on to the first one. Yeah. The bit where Lumpy's running around annoying everyone. And so Marla puts on, or is it Itchy? I don't know, one of them, puts on this holographic circus show type of thing. Yeah. And I'll play a bit like you can hear what it sounds like.
Why, Ed? Why? Why?
It's too soon. It's too soon.
The funniest thing about that sequence is there's these little holographic like performers on this sort of desk type area, and like you see like Lumpy's intense face like looking at them from behind. He's like wide out, the whites of his eyes are like glowing.
Because these holographic tables are canon because they're in the very first movie and also in the later ones where you see the Millennium Falcon. I think it's in 7, Force Awakens.
Yeah,
so that they are canon, but they've taken it to the next step as well because he seems to pull them out off the holographic table and then become sort of human size next to the fucking table.
It's terrifying.
Which is quite frankly terrifying.
Did you notice as well?
They take it to the full-on next step.
Do you notice as well that the buttons to operate it were clearly just one of those like top-down tape decks? Like those.
They were.
I know.
Because when I watched this, like, isn't that the holographic table they played chess in the first movie?
Well, sort of.
Like like monster chess, basically. I was like, oh, they play monster chess on this thing. So this is a thing that does everything. And I thought, oh, all right. And then I sat there baffled because I said, look at this weird Circus du Soleil shit. It's just happening for no reason as a distraction while Lumpy's human teeth, by the way. It looks so weird looking at Lumpy's teeth. I hate it so much. It's scary. Just going, it's like, stop it.
It's the music in that kills me.
It's literally that. It's nonsense.
It's just so bad.
It's nonsense. And we can't poo-poo the idea of, having some Cirque du Soleil shit, it's great. Like, if you actually go and see actual Cirque du Soleil people, they're fantastic. But it makes no goddamn sense when in the first 10 minutes of this, you're suddenly forced to watch a completely random thing with a giant Wookie looking at you, right? Mm-hmm. It's weird.
But there are so many ridiculous sections throughout the whole of this movie.
Yes, and I want to see if I think it'd be dumb to go through all of them, but let's go around the table and let's talk about either any segments that you remember very vividly or a segment that you really liked. So let's go around the table. Greg, actually, let's go with you. Which segment did you actually like? There has to be one.
Like is a very difficult word for me to work with here. There's I wouldn't say I liked particularly any of them, but there are two of the segments that stick out in my mind.
Yes.
Now, the first one is probably the section where you see Luke and R2, where they call him up to find out what's been happening and if what's going on with Han and Chewie, are they still there? And, well, first of all, Mark Hamill clearly was going through his David Bowie phase at the time because...
How much makeup? It looks like Eddie Izzard.
I know. Actually, Eddie Izzard's probably a better shout than David Bowie. Wow.
Well, let me throw a fact on it. Do you know why that was the case? Because Mark Hamill's face was heavily made up because he was actually recovering from reconstructive surgery after a near-fatal car accident.
Oh,
so
right,
he looks like that.
Right, now I feel less bad.
Yes,
sorry.
he nearly died from a car accident. So he was going for reconstructive surgery. This is the first time that people have seen him after the surgery. So that's why he looks so different.
It's a good look. He looks really pretty.
I wasn't saying it's a bad look. No, I know.
But he looks extra young than he was in the first movie.
Yeah.
So much foundation that everything. It was like, wow, squeaky clean. So
I've got a clip of him on that scene, actually, if you want me to play.
Please do.
Give us a smile.
You don't know where he is? Oh, he's not there yet. Is that it? Oh, boy. Well, all I can tell you is that he and Han left here on schedule. If he's not there now, they're way overdue. Gee, there must have been trouble. R2, please, this is important.
There's stuck in traffic.
You know how Han and Chewbacca are. Anything could have happened. They could have stopped off somewhere or been held up by an asteroid storm. Listen, I wouldn't worry about Chewbacca. I know him, and he hasn't missed a life day yet, right?
Oh my god! I can't believe that. I can't believe the one purpose of having Mark Hamill there, the protagonist from the first movie, the entire point of having him there is just to reassure Marla that they're stuck in traffic.
I also think that his role was just to play with the smoke machine because
I think performance-wise, he's the one that looks the most convincing as Luke Skywalker. He looks like he's not too bad. He's not like too grumpy about it.
Well, think about it. It's that scene is just. There's only two of the leads that have very little to do, right?
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, Mark Hamill only has that one scene, so he can put all his energy into it and then just leave because that will clearly be done in half a day, right? And then Carrie Fisher, who, other than the big song solo at the end, which we will get to, only has one weird ass segment where it looks like there he is there she is with C-3PO, just talking to the screen about stuff and looking like she's in an office, which is like, where are you?
It's another FaceTime kind of situation, isn't it? It's a Luke scene.
The one thing that stuck out to me in that particular scene is that she's making sure that Marla's okay. And then, Marla obviously shows that the trader guy's there.
Yeah.
Going, so you're safe, you're in good company. I'm looking at this scene going, listen, that fucking Wookiee will do 10 times more damage than what that bloke will ever do.
I know. But then again, this is all adding lore. This is the thing I want to ask, actually. Are we adding more lore to it because of the later iterations of what we saw?
Yeah,
maybe. Because now we realize actually the Wookiee race was a big, powerful warrior race, blah blah blah, and that kind of nonsense. But at the time, this is the second movie.
It's before these tropes were established.
So could you do me a favor and send either Chewbacca or Han Solo to the screen, please?
She says that she would like to grant your request, but is quite unable to do so.
You mean they haven't arrived yet?
She says there has been no contact.
Yes, I think I understand her message. That Imperial Patrol must be giving them more trouble than we bargained for. Mala, are you alone?
If you would permit me. No, she says she is not alone. She's with a friend.
I guess the other scene that I was going to say, it was either one or the other was, and I'll let you two open this up because it's probably somebody else's most notorious scene, and that would probably be the space kaleidoscope porn.
Okay, right. Okay.
I was going to say that. I've got like 2 clips from that. That's how much I love it.
Ed, I've served it up. I'll let you take this one.
You have to talk about the weird random moment, which is clearly like weird space porn. It's space porn, right?
Kaleidoscope space porn.
My granddad is being a dirty old man.
In front of the rest of the family.
Right, okay, right. I'll set this up. So
and different species as well, might I add.
Yeah, but anyway.
So the trader type character played by like Art Carney, who's like old sitcom actor, isn't he? Kind of thing. He comes in and he's friends of the Wookiee family, and he comes in and he gives them all Life Day presents, and all the others are just, you can ignore the other presents. When he gives like Itchy his present, he kind of gives him a wink, wink, nod, like say, oh, this is a special present. You know what I mean?
Go on, son. Go on, son.
He basically, he puts his helmet on. It looks a bit like one of those like, those old-fashioned hair dryers in a salon.
Yes.
He puts that on, and you see what he sees, and it's basically like it's like Pornhub before Pornhub, but like virtual Pornhub. So
it's like porn VR.
And you hear a bit of this. This is what you hear first.
Oh yes, I can feel my creation.
That's so weird.
I'm getting your message. Are you getting mine? We are excited, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just relax. Just relax. Yeah.
This was for kids, right?
Dirty old man grinned at.
We can have a good time.
Oh, they're gonna have a good time.
It sounds like he's really wanking on that bit.
It's so bad. You're adorable. I'll tell you a secret.
Oh,
yeah,
and
I find you adorable.
that's him pressing the repeat button. He's pressing it again. He wants to hear that
adorable.
Again.
Oh, please call me adorable.
That leads to a very 70s, like James Bond type title sequence of her singing. Was it Diana Carroll or something? Or Dina Carroll?
The song's called This Minute Now.
Yeah,
apparently.
and this, I'll play it. I've got like about 20 seconds of that. So James Bond.
Yeah, incredibly. I think it was the only section throughout this entire feature where I was like, hurry up and get to the music. Please, just hurry up and get to the music.
That I could live my whole life right
So weird. It's weird that it's here.
It's beautiful though, that song.
But
it's great.
But it's a good song, but it's not Star Wars.
No. It's James Bond.
This is what I'm saying. It was literally the only time throughout the whole time watching this where I was like, I can't wait for us to get to this music section. Like, we just need to hurry up and get through the space porn. Let's get to the music, please.
Because
it was the only time I was got music.
It was getting weirdly uncomfortable for that bit before the song comes in. And like I said, good song, weird kaleidoscopic things, but that was not Star Wars at all. And the fact that it was basically weird fantasy space porn where Grandpa thinks up of a sexy person to sing to. Weird. Okay, I'm going to go around to another segment that I remember this vividly for some reason. Right, it's everything in the cantina. All right, I kind of look. Okay, number one, just throwing things out there. I love the Golden Girls, so having B. Arthur there, just like wow. B!
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant.
Good on B, but also
she's great. Don't get me wrong.
It's great, and then it's great, and the whole idea is like, oh, the Empire's putting a curfew in, which means all bars have to close. The Cantina is closed, which is a big thing. Oh no, the Cantina! If it's the legit, it's not the legit same Cantina, but it kind of feels like the Cantina is closed. And so, in order for her to get them to leave, she sings a song called Good Night But Not Goodbye, set to the Cantina band's theme tune. And it kind of works, but it kind of works in that kind of old school show tune kind of
cabaret,
thing.
Isn't it?
It's very cabaret. It's kind of that kind of vibe where
you need some leg kicks to it, don't you?
Exactly.
In like fishnet stockings.
It kind of feels like it needs that, but it's weird when you see people in alien outfits just saying like, "Hey, all the last round, everybody." Hey,
are we really going to discuss this whole scene without talking the fact that she poured a drink into a guy's head?
Oh, I hate him. He's a bit rapey in one bit as well. He grabs her like, "Oh, I need you."
Gets a bit rapey.
It does. He's horrible.
When I left here the other night, I felt something that I haven't felt in longer than I care to remember. I felt alive again. Someone made me feel like all the years I've lived meant something. And all he said was 6 simple words. Come, Dax. I'll be waiting.
Well, after all, only words.
They were more than words. I knew that at the time. That's why I went home and thought about what you said.
Oh, what did I say?
It doesn't matter, silly. What you said is not as important as what you meant.
Oh, what did I mean?
And I decided what you meant was exactly the thing I needed to hear.
Well, I'm glad about that.
You know, it's funny. A man can live as long as I have, through all the ups and downs, and just when he thinks it's all over, someone cares for him again. I wasn't looking for that when I came in here. Maybe that's why it happened, because I wasn't asking for love anymore. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't begging, whining, groveling, sniveling. I just came in here for a drink. And I found a lot more.
Yeah, the idea is because his species don't understand compliments. So the whole point of that's what the vibe I think it got. His species don't understand compliments. So he, B. Arthur says to everyone, it's like, come back next time. I'll be waiting for you. That's the whole thing. Like she says, if people leave, he took it literally and says like, oh, you must love me. So obviously gets a bit handsy, but then afterwards, as a consolation at the end of it all, they pour a drink into his head because he has a volcano for a head, and he's the only person left standing at the end of the whole song, where everyone leaves and gives him a flower and gives her a flower at the end of it, as it kind of fades away into whatever nonsense with the Wookiees are.
I've got a clip of the song if you want to hear the song.
Go
a little
on.
bit of the song.
Not really, but okay.
Go on. jazz hands. You need jazz hands for this.
I love the bouncy bass. Bong, bong, bong.
It's literally that.
It's a bit cabaret, but it's also a bit like we'll meet again. No, it's a bit Cockney like knees up, isn't it? Like
it's a little like I said, like this is the thing. The song is good. I actually think it's all right, but it doesn't work in this thing.
No.
So that's one of my memorable segments is the B. Arthur Cantina scene because it's a slice of life thing. It seems more like an actual like skit in the universe. It doesn't really link to anything, and it could work on its own if it had a bit more polish. But it didn't have any polish because it's a Star Wars holiday special. Like, who would give it polish?
And the set looks good in that, doesn't it? It looks pretty good. Not bad. Not bad. Like comparatively.
In comparison, compared to every other set in this.
Compared to the Millennium Falcon cockpit, that I would, if you told me that was the Cantina, I'd go, I'll allow it.
The cockpit is like something made on Art Attack.
This is what I made earlier.
This is an Art Attack.
This is Art Attack.
And I'm just seeing Neil Buchanan just going to bring in a
Buchanan
cockpit.
Would look out of place in this. I mean, everybody else is. Well, I mean, I personally feel a big red jumper with a Scouse accent is missing from this production.
I love Jefferson Starship, but the thing is, the way that it is shoehorned in though, because like when the Empire, like the soldiers come to like look for Chewbacca at the Wookiee home, and like the trader guy just distracts one of them by showing him
reason.
Just showing him
like just sit here and
distract him so you could try and escape or get them out or hide Chewbacca somewhere else. Like, there's no reason for distracting him because all they do is just sit there and watch him watching the telly.
So this is like a 70s version of an iPad he sits in front of, and he plays a bit of this. And they've got literal glow sticks and everything.
Yeah, but they're always so glowy though.
It's like that sort of like neon pink overlay going over the instruments, isn't it?
What happened?
Yeah.
It's so weird. Oh my god. Right. Again, really good, but not Star Wars. Although, does this mean that there is space metal in Star Wars?
No, because it's not canon, remember, because they can decide what's canon and what's not canon. But what I will say, actually, is throughout the whole, let's just look at the movies, right?
Yeah.
Just the movies alone. This is probably the best music I've heard in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Because trying to think of other examples, I mean, obviously there's the Cantina music, which is timeless classic. That's great. But in terms of like an actual like band playing like with lyrics, like the only thing that I could think that comes relatively close is in Jedi. And it would have been one of the remastered versions. You know, when they've got the band playing inside Jabba's palace?
Yeah.
You know, that's probably the only thing that comes close. Yeah.
I mean, with
that one.
With Star Wars, you don't really need... With Star Wars, you don't really need songs because the John Williams score is just so great. So you don't need, like, songs, but...
If you're going to do it, this is probably the best one.
But here's the thing, though. Like, you kind of think it would be sort of related to the Star Wars universe in some way because apparently it's a band in the universe. No, the song is called "Light the Sky on Fire," but it's actually has nothing to do with it. It's very metal sounding, but it's not has nothing to do with it. The original working title of this was called "Cigar-Shaped Object Vanished Without a Trace." It's all about just UFOs. That's all it is about. It has nothing. This song did eventually get released later on in a Greatest Hits album. So you can get this song as such. So if you just want jam to this tune, which I'm not gonna lie, I do like it. It's a good jam, but it's not Star Wars. It's random.
But it was quite cool, especially like they had that sort of like neon pink overlay like coming off of the instruments whenever they like
I could barely. It was cool, but I could barely see things. I could barely see things though. Half the time I was like, this is just all pink now.
It was just a big neon blur at times.
But during the performance as well, it's like cuts awkwardly back to the soldier watching, nodding along.
Yeah, it's just like,
yeah, I know.
The whole thing is, I bet it was like, obviously the song wasn't there at all. So I think that scene must have happened a lot earlier on, obviously. And they just like filmed this thing here. We're going to add a 3D Jefferson Starship here. So just nod and bop your head as if you're doing it. And it's like, you can clearly see like he doesn't know what he's watching. Right. So he doesn't know what he's enjoying. And it's just like, he's batting out of time. He's nodding his head. He's doing like and like... So he looks more confused, like we are.
It's no worse though. It's no worse though than the actors waiting for dubbed audio to come from Darth Vader though, because the amount of times when he's speaking and his hand gestures are out of place, or when Ewan McGregor's looking above where Jar Jar Binks' head is.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to sort of forgive something like that, because in mainstream movies they've made worse mistakes than him just not knowing what to nod his head to.
Okay, also, just two interesting factoids while we're here. First of all, number one, this is the first time that James Earl Jones was credited for being the voice of Darth Vader. So this is the first time he wasn't credited in the original Star Wars.
Really?
No.
In the original draft?
In the original Star Wars, in the original version of it with the credits, he was not credited because he wanted to keep the voice a secret. It was only until this one where he's actually credited as the voice of Star Wars. And also, speaking of first, which I want to talk about, can we talk about the introduction of Boba Fett?
Yeah, we sure can.
That's the only bit that's not silly. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
it's actually
although the drawings are a little bit bizarre.
Very 70s animation.
They look like they were drew by someone who watched it like 4 weeks ago, and he's just drawing them from memory. Han Solo looks like Mick Jagger.
Got very long, stretched faces, haven't they?
Yeah. It does look a little bit like that. It's like it's very Banshee. Is that kind of vibe, kind of look to it?
But like you say, it's the very first introduction of Boba Fett that we actually get, because again, the remaster that I think you do see Boba Fett in A New Hope, but that's only in the 1997 remaster.
Yeah.
Because originally on one of the very first versions, it was basically a man who played Jabba the Hutt who visited Han Solo at Tatooine, and none of the rest of them are there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is the very first viewing of him, and I do remember it being discussed. Actually, it was like probably on Attack of the Clones. Special features to the DVD that when I was a big nerdy Star Wars kid, I used to watch like endlessly. So I actually had seen this cartoon as part of a documentary in there. So yeah, that was the very first introduction.
And this is the thing then.
It's quite a good one in a way.
Well, this is the thing then. This is kind of arguing there must be a master tape somewhere, because this is out of the special. This is the only thing that has survived and has stayed. And it's actually, you can watch it on Disney Plus and is on certain DVDs and Blu-rays now. Like this whole, if you get the Star Wars complete saga, this cartoon is a special Easter egg that you can actually watch. And to be honest, it's because it's actually really good. Plot-wise, it's good. Everything's good. I like the art style. I think it's quirky. And
it's very 70s, isn't it? It matches the art style at the time.
And maybe it's just me, but this is the most that Boba Fett actually does in comparison to most of his movies. Because if you look at how he is in Empire and how you look at him in Jedi, I mean, Jedi gets eaten within the first 5 minutes. Well, technically. and in Empire, you don't see him doing too much cool stuff. And in this one, he does a little bit more cool stuff.
You don't see him ever use, the thing is, you don't ever see him use a jetpack.
No.
We do it in Empire. Sorry, you don't see him use a jetpack. Like you say, you do it at the very start of Jedi, when he might as well not have, because he basically just flies into the mouth of the Sarlacc. But
it must have really helped with the fandom for that character. I would have thought
100%.
Yeah.
Because at least because again, if there's the time this was considered canon, people have watched it or watched it on bootleg. They watched the cartoon, and it's like, and people think, is he going to come back? Is he going to come back? And then when you see him in Empire, because I think that was always the case, because George Lucas the cartoon must have been designed a lot earlier and probably by George, because it must have taken it takes a longer time to animate. So George must have been I think he must have been a little bit more over on this, saying like, we're going to introduce Boba Fett, we're going to do a very simple plot. The cartoon is actually called The Faithful Wookie, which is very much in the same vein as the whole thing, because it's about Wookiees. Yeah. And I think honestly, it is really, really good. And it's, if anyone is ever, now here's the thing, like I would say if anyone's going to watch the holiday special, you watch it for this, but now you can just watch the cartoon on its own on Disney Plus, so you might as well just watch the cartoon and avoid this.
What, the rest of the hot garbage?
What is it, Mr. Luke? I'm not sure. You saved my life. Thank you.
You are alone?
I have 2 droids. We've come in search of a ship that crashed near here.
Maybe I can help you. I am Boba Fett. The ship you seek is nearby.
Are the Imperial troops near this planet?
They are here, friend, and growing more powerful.
How far away?
Settle down. All they do is eat.
This is all we have, but he's welcome to it.
You are foolish to waste your kindness on this dumb creature. No lower life form is worth going hungry for, friend. I take it you have no love of the Empire.
I don't.
Well, neither do I. It will be easy to find the ship you seek. Follow me, friend.
Everything involving Harvey Korman, though, can naff off. What was all of that?
Oh my God, yeah.
So many of them. Like, okay.
Where do you want to start?
Okay, because every time he cuts to a TV segment, a lot of it's him, right?
Yeah.
He plays 3 characters, I think he does. He plays 3 different characters.
So there's the cooking presenter.
Oh yeah, that's great. I've got a clip of that.
Please.
Let's listen to that. So basically, Marla is cooking up the holiday, the life day dinner,
life day cake or something.
And she's watching a standard cookery show. Well, standard. It sounds like this.
It's a panto dame.
Yes.
Step 2, while we're stirring, we also whip. So it's stir, whip, 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 stir. Stir, whip, stir. Now, let's try it again together at an increased tempo, because precision is very important in this recipe, and we do want to have a fine consistency, don't we? So, and on the count of 1. Stir, whip, whip, stir. Stir, whip, whip, stir. Come on, faster all together now. Cooking can be fun.
This sounds so aggressive.
Whip, stir, whip, stir.
It's so aggressive.
It is awkward,
and then she grows 2 more hands.
Because she's clearly, well, you know, Harvey Korman's playing like a cooking alien that grows like 4 arms, and just so stir, whip, pound, and I think it is a toss or something like that. So it's well, that whole segment can toss off.
It's just reminded me of Goro, like Goro's wife from Mortal Kombat.
I'm just imagining Goro. It's like saying, "So Goro, how are you feeling now that you're retired from Mortal Kombat?" "Oh, it's all fine. My wife's now just doing a cooking show. It's great. Oh, it's wonderful."
The cat man.
It's so good.
I can imagine that as a parody like segment, or like a talking head kind of documentary, like The Office sort of style, like interviewing Goro. And
how's the wife? The wife's got a new cooking show now. Have a look. Whip. Literally the whole thing for me, what I found, it was funny because it's nerve-wracking, but the thing is because it's like this whole thing gave me like anxiety, because she's just shouting commands at you. And I'm like, how am I supposed to follow this?
Marla seems to be doing pretty good with it though. Like,
oh, she's doing well, but I would not be able to manage that. And one bit that did make me giggle a bit is that because clearly the wig wasn't done properly, and halfway through the wig just starts to collapse from the amount of whipping and stirring that's occurring.
Oh my God,
it's like obviously, I know from the podcast you can't see this. It's kind of like how Johan's hair starts to come out at the side here. It's kind of like that kind of deal.
It kind of just destroys itself. At that point, that for me was like, this is the death of comedy as we know it. This is where comedy died. So yeah, there's loads of little bits like that at the end of it where, yeah, I kind of feel like everything with him just stopped. Like, you have to pay attention to him, but it stops all the momentum that any of this had. And it kills it dead. And I'm so sorry for, Harvey Korman. I bet you had a good payday, but my God, were you crap. God, you were
definitely
crap.
Yeah, finally, when Han and Chewie get back to the family, I've got a whole segment of that. Let's listen to this and then talk about it.
It's okay, everybody. He's gone. How are you? It's wonderful. Well, huh? Son's been doing you proud. Saved my tail more than a couple times. Well, I'd love to, but I can't. I gotta get back to the Falcon before somebody stumbles across her. Hey, will you look at Lumpy?
I'm so tired.
He's sure grown, huh?
If you look at Lumpy.
Yeah, it sounds like a chainsaw.
I'm just teasing. I gotta go. Right. Have a nice life day, but be careful. A lot of troopers in the area. Chewie, check and see if the coast is clear, will you?
And then stays there.
You're like family to me.
Star Wars Holiday Special. Thanks for making it Harrison Ford officially uncool.
I know. Well, after that bit, when he says goodbye to Chewie, he gives him such a cuddle.
Oh, I know.
It's like, I'm
a
not...
Chewie cuddle. How nice would that be, though? I was really envious of that cuddle.
I'm having a moment where I'm thinking that maybe Harrison Ford, like, that was his last shot of the day. It's like, look, I'm so glad I'm fucking going. I'm just gonna hug this for a while, man, because you're comfy, man. But also, that is the moment where Harrison Ford clearly didn't want to be there, and you can hear that in the entire performance. He doesn't want to be there. But here's the thing that happened just previously to that, because at the time, one of the stormtroopers finds Lumpy doing the transmitter thing, and he's being stalked back, and these railings, man, these wooden railings are made out of what? They have full of termites? Because
I don't know, because earlier on in the film, you see Lumpy clearly just balancing along them like they're made out of solid steel.
No, but it wasn't the real one. That was the matte painting. Matte painting's amazing. Right? But the thing is, at that point...
Lead paint.
Yeah, literally at the point, like, Chewie distracts, the stormtrooper, and then Harrison Ford just nudges him softly, and he flies off. And it's like, that man is dead.
when he knocks out the stormtrooper, it's like there's no sound design for that as well. You don't hear him hit him, which is like really shit. It's like a really like sort of light, like silent, like noise when he is.
Yeah,
it's like no noise whatsoever.
Although one little Easter egg, it was the Wilhelm scream that you hear as he falls over.
That's all they could do.
Oh, my God. And then let's just go right to the end. So right at the very end, finally, all the Wookiees are together. Woohoo! And then it's the weird, very trippy Life Day celebration, which suddenly everyone's back, even though Han Solo did say, like, I won't be here for Life Day. He totally was here for Life Day.
He was here.
And
he lied.
And said, like, look, sir, I wouldn't miss this for the world. You're all my family. But not like, but not even in.
He's the Too Fast, Too Furious memes before they were a thing.
You're all my family. And but you can see at that moment in his eyes, like, I so don't want to be here. I wouldn't be surprised if that was like the first thing they shot. So just to get most of the big actors out of the way, because it was maybe the only day they were able to get them together, and then basically Harrison Ford saying, "What have I signed up for? What am I tied up for? Oh my God, I'm going to have to do this whole thing. Oh God."
I can't believe they made Carrie Fisher sing.
But it's hilarious.
But again, it's like I said earlier, it's to the Star Wars theme song, which means that song exists in universe.
And so, this is where it gets really weird. Shall we? Clearly, you have a little
like the Lord of the Rings going, taking the ring to the Tower of Doom. We're going to destroy the ring.
Let me explain. In Lord of the Rings, we haven't met many bards. So if we met a bard, I bet you'd use a theme. Now, I'll tell you something then, Ed. So clearly, we should sort of end on this note by having us hear Carrie Fisher, attempting to do the theme song.
Let's hear Leia's final thoughts.
This holiday is yours. But we all share with you the hope that this day brings us closer to freedom and to harmony and to peace. No matter how different we appear, we're all the same in our struggle against the powers of evil and darkness. I hope that this day will always be a day of joy in which we can reconfirm our dedication and our courage, and more than anything else, our love for one another. This is the promise of the Tree of Life.
Here we go.
We celebrate a day of peace, a day of harmony, a day of joy we all can share.
How much of this do you want?
Just enough. Just enough. I'm seeing. I'm hearing
Say when.
Seconds ago.
We have to wait.
Okay, there we go. I think they get the message. It goes into the Star Wars theme with lyrics.
It's a special little thing. Also, it's just the fact that it comes out of nowhere randomly at the end. It's very trippy because right after that happens, everyone's just standing around. All the Wookiees are in red robes, and then you get then the final shot of the movie is just a shot of Chewbacca's face being dissolved into seeing all the good bits from the first movie. and then it cuts to the end and saying, "Life Day, everyone," and the special ends. Oh my God. What? I know. I know.
I understood that reference.
What? I think that's the expression for this movie. So yeah, that was the Star Wars Holiday Special. It's, for me, I feel, before we get into the Trashometer, I feel like this is one of those weird novelties for me. And this is one of the things I like doing this show. This, to me, feels like it's far more interesting reading about the history behind the making of this movie and what happened after the movie than actually watching it. I found it far more fascinating looking at the trivia than actually sitting through this movie.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You know, when you learn about some of the trivia about some of the goings on and the reason why it is like it is, it actually kind of makes you smile compared to any point in that movie where I couldn't muster one smile. I couldn't make a Marla face, not even once.
See,
she's got a creepy smile.
See,
you saw Marla's smile, right? With those human teeth.
I was watching it like I had a coat hanger in my mouth the whole time. I was just like,
look at this car
grinning intensely because it was so bad and so hilarious. But so I enjoyed it for that reason.
It's definitely a car crash.
I was just angry. I was just angry throughout the whole thing. I was angry it exists.
And on that note, let's have a pause because I think it's about time we put the Star Wars Holiday Special into the Trashometer. Trashometer. Thank you. So, if this is the first time you're listening to us, welcome, and thank you for going through this horrible, torturous journey with us. But just to go through things, actually, what we like to do is we like to rate things a little bit differently around here. Like, we don't do A stars or star ratings. We do something called a Trashometer. And the Trashometer is basically, think of it like a scale, a combination of a good balance between good and evil, light and dark, Jedi and Sith, as it were. You need the right balance to really tolerate a good, bad movie, right? So this is how we rate them. At the very, very bottom, we have tame. Tame basically means that it was boring. It wasn't really bad or not really like anything trashy about it. Like it's, or we were just bored by it, you know? Like it wasn't anything genuinely interesting about it. Then we got a tiny bit trashy. This is where there are some elements that we liked, but it could have leaned on them a little bit more. We could have actually had more trash and we could have had more fun with this. Then you've got trash. This is the absolute perfect spot. It is the golden goose. It is the gobsmack center. It is the balance between light and dark that we need, damn it. This is the chosen one, right? Then you go a little bit further, and now it goes to too trashy. Too trashy is where, while we had some fun with it, there are moments where we're getting genuinely frustrated. It's getting actually bad. Like, it's getting quite bad. And then there is torture. Torture is, we hated it. It was too bad overall. There's way too much badness to really enjoy this overall, right? So, I'm going to put it over to you guys first. Let's start with Greg, because Greg, you are yes, a co-host, but also the guest on this episode. So, where would you put this on the Trashometer?
I would say it's not middle. It's not the chosen one.
No.
I'd probably say this is too trashy. So it wasn't quite angry bad, but it wasn't. It made me, like I say, it made me angry at times. But then I've also got to remember when I review this that this is literally after A New Hope had come out, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I love the Star Wars franchise with view of 9 different movies, many different TV shows, games, whatever. But I've got to remember that this is the Star Wars universe before the Star Wars universe was really established. So I guess I'm angry at it because I think it's terrible. It's not what I think the Star Wars universe should be. But it's also kind of fun at times and just ridiculous and just complete nonsense. And it wasn't a terrible waste of an hour and 40 minutes. So yeah, I'm going with too trashy.
Okay. All right. Ed, what do you think?
I am going to agree with Greg in terms of the ranking. I'm going to go with too trashy as well because there's times where it's definitely too much. Even though I said I was smiling all the way through, it does make me angry. And the one thing that really makes me angry about it is the fact that I used to like Wookiees before this. I like Chewbacca. I was a big fan of Chewbacca, right? And after this, seeing the whole sort of too much of the Wookiees, it's like, when the Empire is trying to track down and they're bullying the Wookiees and they're trying to track down. I'm like, I hope they catch him. Like, good. I was like siding with the Empire at this stage. I hated the Wookiees in this so much, and that really pisses me off. That gets me up to almost to torture. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it too trashy, but I'm also going to give it this, which is the seal of disapproval. I've told you about this before. This.
Go for it.
That is the Simpsons burp of disapproval.
You know what? Totally fair. I would agree. And I
think it's true. It kind of made me hate. The Wookiees as well somewhat. That's probably only because the granddad didn't really remind me so much of the Wookiee. It actually reminded me of the Yeti in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It was more like a Yeti than a Wookiee. So, I don't know. I just think they got the idea of Wookiees wrong. But
this damn Wookiee Bible. Now, I'm gonna be inclined to agree. Now, here's the thing. There were moments. This movie was a roller coaster, but not in the way I thought it would be. Number one, there were moments I had to watch this twice. Because the first time, I kind of dozed off a bit and I had to go back and rewind some stuff. Because the bits with the Wookiees just yelling nonsense at each other was really hard to sit through. Like, that was torture. That was full torture. The segments were horribly paced. And so therefore there were loads of random moments where I'm sitting there confused going, quoi? Like, what is this? But then there were some levity moments that I did enjoy. Like I did like the cartoon a lot. I think it's partly the saving grace of its whole thing. If the cartoon wasn't in it, this would just be a complete waste of time. Yeah. The Jefferson Starship song. In fact, most of the songs do kind of bang, but they don't work in this movie. But I would listen to the Jefferson Starship song entirely on my own.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But it's not. Why is it here? I don't know.
Shoehorn Starship.
So Jesus Christ. But here's the thing. I would put this, if I was going to put it like, it's definitely too trashy, but I think it's pretty high. Like, this is pretty high. Like, if it was, like, we were on a knife edge.
Yeah, it's nearly in torture, isn't it?
It's nearly torturous. Like, we were on a knife edge. Like, if they did one more fuck up, I think we would have just gave up, right? And so, I think, do we all agree that this is basically a high too trashy?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Definitely.
I'd say so. That's exactly where it belongs.
Too much of something is bad enough.
Too trashy.
And there we go. There we go. That was the Star Wars Holiday Special. Oh God.
There we have it.
And you know what?
I will say this though. I am in the mood to go actually watch some more good Star Wars movies.
Yeah. It got
me in the mood for Star Wars. I will say that.
So, has it fulfilled its duty, basically?
Well, this is the question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's something. I guess
it's clearly terrible. It's clearly a massive pile of hot garbage.
Yeah.
But it kind of also made me go, oh, you know what? I kind of miss Star Wars. Might go watch them.
What does it make you want to watch? Which one?
Original trilogy.
Yeah.
Empire. This makes me want to watch Empire to see, like, if this is continuity, I want to go, like, I have to put it to Empire.
Well, this is the thing. When I watch the original trilogy, I might have to just sort of nudge in this in between 4 and 5 now.
Do you want to, though?
Just to get the full chronological experience, Johann. Listen,
it's gonna hate it
on the way I want to.
You'll have to come over and watch the original VHS because I've got that.
Oh, you've got it, haven't you? I know. I said this the first time I went around to Ed's house. I was so jealous that you actually had that because I've never seen the original.
The one without any of the extra stuff in the 90s.
The one that basically hasn't been tampered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a treat you could do for another Christmas. Here's something I will say though, like, obviously, I'm sorry that I've done this Christmas tradition of putting both two of my best buddies through torture over Christmas, because look, if I wasn't able to give you full-blown presents sometimes, I have to give you something. And so I gave you this, especially you, Greg. Congratulations.
Thanks very much. Well, Ed was the really lucky boy last year when he got that lovely playlist from you.
Yeah.
Dear me.
That was something.
It had everything in the kitchen sink. It was hilariously bad. It's a thing. I like doing this together because the whole point of watching a bad movie of any kind is you kind of need to be to share the experience in one way or another. Now we weren't able to do it in person, but it was funny that we were all here in a very festive mood talking about how crap Wookie's teeth looked.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward. I'm definitely looking forward to doing more like 3-way podcasts.
Oh god, we have to find some more then. We're gonna have to do some more at some point. We have
to sound sexual.
hey, look, it's gonna be like an homage à toi kind of situation here. But yeah, it would be nice, honestly, that we have some things. We just need to find some episodes that best fit. So we might have to start going back to some more video game movies at some point. Maybe something more related to what you maybe have played or watched at some point, Greg. So you could be a bit more of a filler in between.
We've had this idea. I mean, we can obviously do some video game related stuff, which is obviously something we have done in the past as well. The other thing we've also spoken about is also maybe going back and actually watching some terrible wrestling pay-per-views.
Oh God! What are we talking, like Heroes of Wrestling, for example?
Maybe, yeah, we could do that. Or I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be trashy, but there's plenty of really, really bad ones out there. If you dig deep enough, you can certainly.
I think I got the perfect movie for that. Not a pay-per-view.
December to Dismember, ECW 2009.
That's pretty bad. But do you know what's worse? Wrestlers versus Zombies, which is a whole movie. Stars Kurt Angle in it. It's Kurt Angle putting zombies in a chokehold. So I think we've got that movie.
They did that as soon as recent as this year, Backlash this year.
Yeah, they did that. That's a good link. Congratulations. So yeah, that's a segue. We totally have to do Wrestlers versus Zombies. It has a cornucopia of wrestling legends, all putting zombies in chokeholds. So
let's do it.
That's going to be great. But yeah, I think that is everything. But before we disappear, let's do any plugins of anything we're going to be doing before we drop you off over the festive period. So, is there anything we should be plugging at all over the festive period before I say our goodbyes for 2021?
Well, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning. Johann and I have recorded a Batman Returns special video for the Retro Rewind channel. And that's a new kind of series that we've started where we talk about movie games as well as the movie. So we watch our favourite scenes from the movie and we play 2 of the 16-bit games, the Super Nintendo one and the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis one.
I'll talk about the Sega Mega one again because that is...
And then we just decide which, in terms of enjoyment level, which we had more fun with, watching the movie again or playing the game. And that's it. Simple format.
There's a couple of few there we can always throw in there, and there's things that's quite good to see as well. And Greg, is there anything? Greg, how's things involving Twitch? How do you think that's all going?
It's going okay. I mean, I've not been able to. Oh man, when it comes to doing stuff with you guys, it's been pretty thin on the ground from my side of things because I've been very busy with my day job.
Of course.
So working in games, especially around this time, it's all going a bit crazy. So it's not really able to do a great deal on Twitch. However, we are finding, Sundays, most weekends on a Sunday, where we've been doing a lot of multiplayer games. So we've been doing First Class Trouble over the last couple of weeks, which has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot to do. We are looking to do Fall Guys very soon as well. And then after that, in the new year, Johann and I were probably going to be doing Portal 2 multiplayer.
I can't wait for that. Because this is the thing, you've already played Portal 2 very recently.
Yes.
I've played the multiplayer, but it was years ago. So I'm like kind of this old sort of Sifu, having to say like, you've got to put the portal there. And it's like, are you sure? I don't know. The portal should be there. I think it's there. We've got to put it there.
The thing is, though, you might have played it many years ago, but Portal requires a very special kind of mindset, and you've got to get back into the Portal mindset and the Portal way of thinking, and that does take a bit of time to actually get there. So even if you did play it a few years ago, I feel like you might still go into it again this time.
Like completely true. And that's true. But we're also thinking as well that very soon we have actually had a lot of streams, and we've actually had a lot of footage and videos that we had from the old YouTube channel. So very soon we're actually hoping to put all that up, officially re-edited and uploaded onto the Twitch channel, so you can actually have a look at some of our old content on Enigmatic Play Archive, which I'm quite excited, because some of the videos were really, really fun to look at, and some of the streams were really fun, and it's just kind of nice to go back and have a look at the nonsense, because we had a lot of nonsense. It'd be nice to have it there forever on the internet. And here's the thing, actually, and this is something basically saying, my kids know that I stream now, so as in my
as in your day job, kids?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So my kids know I stream now, which is hilarious. Because do you know when we suddenly?
I don't know about you, Ed, but I was just thinking.
I have children.
What?
No.
The audience. You mean students?
Yes, my kids. I call them my kids, my children, about my thing. So yeah, they know I stream now. Which is, do you remember that time we actually were playing First Class Trouble and suddenly we had like 30 people in? That's my class figuring out that I streamed, and they were looking at me for like 25 minutes or something. They were just looking. So yeah, my whole.
Did it happen to, who's that really cool guy who keeps killing everyone? Who's really good at this game?
Fuck you. Oh god. I mean, the footage that's all been saved, and that's going to be edited at some point to watch Greg's betrayal. I've saved them. I've saved them. I've saved them all. I've saved them all, so it'll be hilarious to see how you backstab me multiple times. But anyway, other than that, then basically, this is going to be the end for the Trash Tapes for this year. We kind of just refreshed the new season because we want to approach things differently, and I think the way we're doing it now is going to be a lot easier for productivity, both for myself and everything else. And yeah, we've got ideas for the new year. There might be an extra podcast coming in where it's mostly myself and someone else, where we look at trashy movies that are actually good, maybe? That's a whole different argument to look at. And also just approaching it in a way that there's loads of interesting movies, loads of stuff. I bought, let's say, a whole bunch of stuff from Arrow recently. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out of that one. And cool. And overall, just going with the paces, going with the flow, just having content out on a semi-regular basis without feeling that extra pressure. Because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun. And the more fun the fun should be when I'm arranging with my friends to watch terrible shit with me. So that's why you guys are here.
This should never feel like work.
Exactly.
No.
So, and that's what it is. So yeah, wonderful. So everyone, thank you very, very much for joining me on this very special festive episode. Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me.
And Ed, obviously, thank you for always being the soundboard, my DJ, and my victim for having to go through this nonsense with me.
No problem. Happy Life Day, guys.
Happy Life Day. And on that bombshell.
Everybody get your candles out. Come on, everybody get your candles out. It's time for us to teleport into Red Robes.
And on that note, we shall say Happy Life Day, everyone, and keep an eye on your trash. There might be some treasure in there. See you guys next time.